Okay, how are we going to approach unseen poetry in the AQA Paper 2 literature exam? So I use FIRST as an approach. That stands for first and last line, imagery, repetition, structure, and title. The first thing that I do is I read the question, then I read the poem, and then I try to link each of these features to the ideas in that title. Okay, so I try to link them to whatever theme I've been asked to look at from the question, and that way I've got 5 really good annotations that I can start my analysis with. Obviously, the latter part, where I'm comparing to another poem, we take a slightly different approach, but for analysing the poem for the first time, and this also applies to any other exam board where you're faced with an unseen poem, you get 5 really good annotations that you can kind of guarantee that you're going to be able to talk about in any poem you come across, because every single poem you ever come across is going to have each of these 5 features in one way or another. Okay, so let's jump in. What I've done is I've asked my colleague to find me a poem that they think would be suited for unseen poetry and add it to these slides. I haven't seen it before, so I'm going to treat it as unseen, and I'm going to show you how this technique can work, talking you through my thoughts. Okay, so here's my poem. Twist ye, twine ye. Okay, and the question over here is, how does the poet present the speaker's feelings about human existence? Okay, I've had that underlined for me because that's my theme. And each of these 5 things, oh, it's already been picked out for me. Okay, great. So I'm going to see what to talk about with first line, last line, imagery, repetition, structure, and title from this poem. I'm going to start by reading it, thinking about human existence. Okay, twist ye, twine ye. Twist ye, twine ye, even so, mingle shades of joy and woe, hope and fear and peace and strife in the thread of human life. While the mystic twist is spinning and the infant's life beginning, dimly seen through twilight, interesting spelling, bending, lo what varied shapes attending. Passions wild and follies vain, pleasures soon exchanged for pain, doubt, again, interesting spelling of doubt, and jealousy and fear in the magic dance appear. Now they wax, now they dwindle, whirling with the whirling spindle, twist ye, twine ye, even so, mingle human bliss and woe. Okay, so let's have a look and kind of tick off each of these features. First and last line. Well, it looks like I've done my first 2 and last 2 lines. Oh, I can see why, because they are repeated, aren't they? Okay, so done that. Imagery, I've picked whirling with the whirling spindle. For repetition, I've just the repetition of ing. Okay, so this is repetition of a morpheme, so a specific part of a word. Structure, I seem to have just drawn attention to the fact that we've got 4 stanzas of equal length. Okay, I can talk about that. And the title is Twisty Twiney at the top. Okay, so I have identified each of these features. Now I'm going to do something with them. I'm going to annotate them based on what I think they do in relation to human existence. So what can I say about each of them? Okay, so the first thing that we come across is obviously the title. Now I notice straight away that we've got ye being used. This is what I would call kind of archaic language. So if I'm relating that to human existence, I might think that this is potentially quite idealized if they're using archaic, old-fashioned, cutesy sort of language. I also notice that twist ye, twine ye, that's imperative. So perhaps this is instructional. Perhaps this is teaching us how to make our way through human existence. But the actual, the terms themselves, twist and twine, suggest inconsistency, right? We've got back and forth going on. Okay, so my first impressions of the poem in terms of human existence, I'm thinking, well, it's twisting and twining, so not a consistent thing. But we've got archaic language suggesting it's quite an idealized look, instructing you how, with the imperatives, to live your life. Okay, then we're going to jump, so that's the title. Then we're going to jump into what the first and last lines say. So they say, twist ye, twine ye, even so, mingle shades of joy and woe. Twist ye, twine ye, even so, mingle human bliss and woe. Okay, so it's very, very similar, but the first line, twist ye, twine ye, even so, mingle shades of joy and woe. So it is telling you, it is instructional, so we can confirm that's what's going on. And it is indeed mixing things, inconsistency, and it's kind of giving an instruction to combine the plus and the minus, joy and woe in life and that is obviously a good thing, presumably, to combine these things in life. That's what human existence is all about. Twisty, twiny, even so, mingle shades of joy and woe. So we're now thinking that twist and twine are something that you are doing yourself. You are deliberately combining these things for a good purpose. Twisty, twiny, even so, that's exactly the same. Mingle, human bliss, and woe. Okay, so at this point, we realize that human bliss is a more kind of general term for life. So it's kind of a broader message at the end. Perhaps a universal message that is being given. Okay, so we notice that we have some kind of good advice for living your own life, and then it is what we call extrapolated to be universal. So a bigger idea. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about for my first and last lines, and how the first impressions that we get, and how that is extrapolated and developed on by the end of the poem into something more universal. Then I'm going to look and see what imagery I have picked out. And the imagery I picked out is whirling with the whirling spindle. Okay, so if you're whirling with the whirling spindle, it's talking essentially, if the whirling spindle is basically, life. So spindle is quite often used as sort of a metaphor for human existence and life and mortality and things like that. And if it is whirling, it is going round and round. It's basically saying to whirl with it. Okay, so it is a cooperative process. You should ride the highs and the lows. So again, it's talking about the same idea here, combining positives and negatives. You should cooperate that, go with it, and you will have this good thing, this better outcome, if you just go with the flow, basically. Whirling with the whirling spindle feels like a way of saying going with the flow. And that kind of whirling spindle, obviously, we know is kind of a metaphor for life / mortality. So we can recognize that image. It's what we call symbolism. And this symbolism has been played with this word with, and with is a preposition. So the prepositional with is cooperative. We're cooperating with the whirling spindle, this metaphor for life and mortality, which is whirling around, i.e. confusing. We go with it, we're going to get good things. Okay. Then we are going to go into repetition. And the repetition that I found is just this ing. So an ing, because it's not a full word, it's what we call a morpheme, which is part of a word. Specifically, in this case, it is a suffix. And it is relating to kind of the continuous, present continuous here, or the continuous aspect of the verb. But essentially, we've got if it is spinning, beginning, bending, attending, all of these sorts of things mean that this is ongoing. Okay, it is happening all the time. Okay, it is in movement, which I think ties into this nice idea of going with the flow. Go with the flow, because life is going to keep on moving and you need to kind of move with it. Okay, in terms of the structure, we've got 4 neatly arranged quatrains. What else do we have? They are end stopped for the most part. The lineation is pretty equal, so the lines are the same sort of length. We have got initial capitalization, and we've got a tight rhyme scheme. Okay, basically all of these sorts of things, you're not going to talk about those because there's nothing much to say, but it is very poetic. We've got all of those features of a kind of typical poem, which usually suggest we have order, we have harmony, we basically have good vibes. Okay, if all of the poetical features are working consistently, we can usually talk about the order, harmony, and good vibes, which of course links to our theme of human existence, and it links to the general idea of the poem as it's going through. Okay, so there we have a fully annotated poem. So it'd be so easy to answer this question about human existence because there is a very clear message that is being tied through all of these annotations. And you can obviously do that in under 10 minutes, as I just have. And then you jump into writing the question.